And you gonna murder this one and murder that one. Talking all that bullshit. I'm gonna put it to you like this, yo.
This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me, I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody? And welcome back to another special episode of the Only Friends podcast. Well, you know, it's me and my only friend, which includes, but is not limited to, my boy Hunt. What's poppin', Hunt?
Hello, Conrad. I am in a different chair today. I get a different view of the room. I'm in Lamanna's seat. It feels good.
That shot looks gorgeous.
It feels great. It feels good to be surrounded by, tortoise memorabilia, Steelers stuff, and like Pittsburgh stuff, and like stuff that's not relevant to me at all. But whatever.
We have somebody come and take all that down this week, don't we?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
all the Steelers stuff.
I
It
did
all
hear.
comes down
I did
this
hear
week.
the other day. I heard one of the shows where you guys were there was like 15 minutes of just complaining about the Steelers, and I had no idea what any of it meant, but I just figured you guys were really down bad right now.
Well,
bad.
Not
It's
you
bad.
guys.
Conrad's doing
Conrad
his
is
victory
not.
lap.
Yeah. I guess I meant you and Lamanna, the whole Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just catching up for the first 8 weeks of the rest being on your team.
Yeah.
Oh, baby.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, baby.
Here we go. Conrad's really enjoying himself. If I know the world at large at all, I know that the way this ends is this man ends up getting slapped in the face for his arrogance.
My arrogance. My God. I can't wait.
So, Connie, how much of that slap show have you been watching to train for slapping Berkey in the face?
I actually have never seen it. I might have seen like one clip, and I have maybe 40 sitting in my DMs.
You bet.
Okay.
You better.
You gotta like study the technique. You gotta watch the game footage.
Lot of
and
hips.
Get the
Lot
right
of
the right
hips.
slap
I would
technique.
actually appreciate it if you did practice, because I do not want to get hit in the ear.
I won't hit you in the ear. Don't
No,
worry.
you say that, but like you can't back that up with any level of confidence.
No, I just confidently said I won't hit you in the ear.
All right. Well,
First off, you have these little fucking snubs as ears. We ain't got to worry about that, all right?
I'm not
Yeah.
gonna be shamed for having small ears here, man. Okay. Like,
A
Let's
lot of the
not ear
pros
shame
are
anybody.
putting ear gauze in their ears now.
right. The gauze. That's what I have to. I'm gonna wear fucking earmuffs.
That's cool.
It's fine by me. While we're on the subject, I can't believe what I saw this morning as it got pushed across my desk. But the AFC and NFC Players of the Week. I can't even
Say it
say it with
again.
a straight face.
What'd you say? The AFC and the NFC players of the week are who?
The AFC Player of the Week is Zach Wilson.
Zachary Wilson? That's a Jet, right? I just wanted to
What
make
was
sure.
his catch line
That's
again?
incredible. He had one?
Yeah, Zach Wilson. Didn't we like troll him for saying something all the
No,
time?
no,
No, he
that's
banged top
Russell
moms,
Wilson.
Wrong Wilson.
Yeah, wrong Wilson.
Russell Wilson's been cooking this
Yeah,
year.
he has been cooking ever since he dropped his little tagline.
Yeah.
Let's ride. He has been.
Oh my God,
cooking.
the Let's Ride. I'm so sad that died. That was such a good fucking bit.
Well, yeah, I mean it was.
No, Sean
but-
Payton came in and he squashed it. He said, "We ain't riding anywhere, motherfucker. Get back in the kitchen." The NFC Player of the Week is one DeVito. I can't believe.
Which plays for the New York Giants.
I feel like I'm in a fucking sim. I can't believe this is what week 15 of the NFL has come down to. I'm ready for it to be over. Bring on spring training. Let's get the pitchers and catchers to fucking show up. I can't do this much longer.
I mean, I see a strong. Actually, this is the funny part is, why the fuck are you winning games, New York? We want
Yeah.
draft picks now.
That's the real crazy part about all of this. Well, I mean, long shot Aaron Rodgers still comes back, I guess.
Yeah, it's true. But do we care? How long is he there for?
Bro's been like full participant in practice.
Really?
It's insane. It's insane. Like an 8-month-long injury, he just did it in like 14 weeks.
I mean, everything's pretty crazy. People come back from high ankle sprains like fucking Trevor Lawrence. It was like he had a high ankle sprain and he just played the next weekend.
Yeah, they thought he was out for the season.
Yeah.
He's a gamer. They didn't win though.
No, they did not.
Speaking of sports, what you're gonna have to. This is your duty. You need to revamp Weekend Warrior for this Friday.
For this Friday?
I mean, we've missed the last 2 weeks, basically.
Oh, yeah, you're right. All right.
So-
Well, no. Don't you try to step on my victory, all right?
All right. Well,
All right.
I mean,
Guapa, did you update the sheet yet?
That was a bit.
Game of gold. I got you, puppy.
All right, buddy.
I don't want that sheet updated. That was. that
You're
was
still ahead by like 3 games.
I get it,
Don't
but that
worry,
was some bullshit. Only one person could win.
That's the beauty of it. And I'm coming.
It was a rigged game, you know.
Yeah, okay. We'll figure something out.
Okay, you're on it.
Let's do
Let's get into some things. Poker Hunt. Have you seen the news?
Which news would that be?
G-Man is back.
Oh, that news I have seen. Yeah, I'm not always up to date on news, but I have seen that news.
He
Yeah,
is back with a vengeance.
the vengeance.
Well, I don't know if that's true, but
Yeah, that sounds aggressive. That sounds angry.
The hype videos would have you believe that he's coming to take some souls.
Yeah. Well, doesn't he always do that anyway? Like, isn't that kind of his whole shtick?
I mean, yeah, I
mean,
guess.
like taking souls and just being a crusher or whatever. That's kind of
No, yeah,
Garrett's
he's
thing,
definitely
you know?
he's the guy. He's that guy. But he kicks it off tonight. 100K minimum buy-in at Bally's. I didn't get the call. I'm a little disappointed, not gonna lie. The lineup.
You're not person's first call on the list.
You're not in the bullpen.
I'm not in the bullpen. I'm not even in the stands at this point.
Fucked up, man.
The lineup is him, Person, Antonius. Is it Curtis Meeks, the former boxer?
Yeah,
Is that correct?
I think that's
I don't know
correct.
that.
I mean, it seems pretty right on.
I think that was the name of him.
Is Freddie Deeb playing this game?
Freddie Deeb is not in this game for sure. Freddie Deeb. Charles is in there from Hustler. My man Penzel Dawn's coming in from Houston. And then the only person I don't know is Kirk. I'm not sure who that is. Yeah, Curtis Meeks, the boxer.
Can I just say the idea that there's a guy named Pennzoil Dawn, like a guy named after an oil company.
Welcome to
that's
high
a
stakes.
guy you want in your poker game.
Yes.
You want to know exactly how you define who you want in the game and who you don't want in the game? Go back to that tweet, Guabo. What you'll see here is there are 4 names that have Twitter accounts.
Yeah.
And 4 names that do not have Twitter accounts.
Yeah.
I know
a wild
nothing.
guess.
I know nothing about 2 of the 4 of those people who do not have Twitter accounts, and I do know something about the other 2. The 4 that don't have Twitter accounts are people you want to build a game around.
Yeah.
I'm very confident in that.
That sounds pretty reasonable.
Absolutely positive that those 4 are going to be the spice of life when it comes to this game.
Yeah.
Shout out to Patrick Antonius's PR person.
Okay.
Look, I mean, that's like got to be from 15 years ago.
Either that or it's like an AI edited
It's
photo.
both.
I mean, he still
it's
looks great.
definitely both. That is an AI version of Patrick in 2004.
I mean, he looks amazing.
This might be from like his high school tennis reel.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wasn't he like a professional tennis player or something?
funny.
It's probably from those days.
Yeah. No, shout out to the graphics team. You know, the AI generation now. I mean, honestly, the graphic looks a little bit like our thumbnails. Like it's got that same solid blue background, the AI filter
I honestly
on
think
everybody.
they just used an old picture of Patrick.
No, for sure,
Yeah.
but it's you can tell there's an AI filter on. I mean, the same way you can tell on ours.
If we ever do a show that has those 4 on it, it'll be a spicy podcast. I can tell you that.
That would be a great pod. A very, you know what? Just let them cook.
Yeah.
Just give them
exactly.
mics.
Just
The problem
don't
is,
even need any of us.
what do you get Patrick to say?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's just there to look good. You know,
Yeah.
he's not going to chime in.
But you know, Patrick, I think he's got a really good track record of being entertainment value on these streams. So
Yeah, for sure.
him and Garrett battling is going to be interesting.
For sure. I think it'll be fun to watch. Are you tuning in? You're off today.
I might be. I didn't realize it was today, actually. For some reason, I thought it was at the weekend. I guess I'm not.
Well,
used
there's a
to-
WPT stream that starts on Friday,
Okay.
300, 600. It's going to be Garrett, Roble, and then to be determined.
Okay.
I think Santosh is in there.
I
And then to
may
be
tune in.
determined.
I may take a look. You know, there are some interesting hands that come up from these things. I think one good thing about these streams is that they're so ever present on social media that whenever the interesting hands happen, you end up seeing them anyway. So like, even if you don't watch, like you don't miss out on that much, I guess, or at least I don't.
Yeah.
I only watch 500K, 1 million.
Okay. That's not a thing. I agree with you. I tend to not watch the actual streams, and I tend to catch the hands thereafter. But I do find myself wanting to go back. So I think it was 2 days ago, something like that. WPT put on a 200-400 cash game, and it was like, a lot of regs, pretty good players. And Kier Sullivan is somebody who I play with pretty regularly. He got bluffed in a pot. And
is it the ace nine of spades? Or
I think I love Kier.
Yeah, Kier's great. Kier's so good for TV. Like, he's just so gregarious and like outgoing and willing to make a fool of himself for the sake of the cameras.
Yep.
He's really a great addition. But I watched that clip and I felt myself compelled to like open the stream. I wanted a little bit more context. I like wanted to know what was going on, especially because Kier isn't exactly a guy who gets bluffed all that often. Like, a man after my own heart. He's a bit of a station, but it wasn't like that ridiculous. He just had ace queen on queen jack 8 two-tone in a spot where I assume it was a 3-bet pot, but whether it was or wasn't doesn't really matter. Like, you're pretty fucked there when you get check jammed on.
Yeah. That's not fun.
Yeah, you're just against a lot of 9-10, a lot of jack X, like whatever. So he makes a pretty good fold, and the guy shows him ace 9 of spades for the gut shot flush draw, and he actually died.
He just collapsed.
He collapsed on stage and had a bit of a heart attack.
Wow.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun to watch. So I'm looking forward to seeing the highlights at a bare minimum from this. They're really throwing out all the stops. They got Poppy in the booth commentating a game that he doesn't play.
Yeah. I feel like they brought out the all-stars.
What do you think the over-under is on him saying 2-card PLO?
Oh, geez. I don't know. It's going to be like, it's got to be like once every half an hour, maybe more than that, probably.
Probably more, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely is. To say it one time on stream, it's going at minus $1 million.
Okay, yeah, I think that is that's a pretty fair line.
1 million to win 100.
I think like a good over-under is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of like 19.
Yeah.
Like 19 times he says 2-card PLO.
In a how many hour stream?
I think it's a 6-hour stream.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Once every 20 minutes or so.
Yeah.
That's about right.
What about in the lab?
Oh, I don't know.
I've been in the lab studying the 2-card PLO.
Yeah,
I wonder if he's gonna.
That's actually a complete sentence that he will say.
Right.
That one's going for like minus 225.
We gotta have like a bingo card, like Joey Ingram commentary bingo. Where you just tick off everything.
Finally, they've moved past my bingo card and we've gone into Joey's.
But your bingo card is still out there.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not day. It was Hunt.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
Your bingo card lives forever.
This is the Kier clip. It's really great. Honestly, just roll with sound. Let's give it its full moment.
Oh, he's folded.
Oh my God! Show him, Danny. Show him.
Yes, he's not showing. He's not showing.
Danny.
Danny's such a beast.
He's not showing. Let's go.
So the fact that he's not showing, he thought he made a good fold.
Yeah.
It's a bluff.
I'm dead.
Ace 9 of spades.
It can't be.
Did he just say ace nine of spades?
Guys,
Ace 9 of spades.
Showed it to Serge Sergio.
No!
Goodness.
Scientist on the floor! I'm gonna reanimate him.
Wow.
No!
Okay.
Don't die now! Don't die! Hey, it was a bluff, it's okay. No
Kings
big
on the
deal.
mark.
I did that before. I followed the best hand so many times in my life.
Oh, man.
Don't worry, it's gonna be okay for you.
Bluff of the evening.
Wow.
Newcomer Danny, straight off the bat up 37,000. Clip that one. Certainly one of the highlights of tonight's stream. Jesse and I going on a quick 10-minute break along with these.
That was great.
Wow.
That's just good TV.
That was a reaction. That was a pretty extreme reaction.
Yeah,
but
that's just good TV.
That was fun. That's making poker fun.
sometimes you get bluffed and you just die.
It's
The
really-
best part about it is that he said ace 9 of spades. Like
That was Sergio that said it.
Yeah, it was someone else.
Oh, okay.
Sergio called out his hand.
Oh, I thought it was him.
Was that Yo that was like consoling him? Like,
Yeah.
I folded the best hand so many times in my life.
Don't die! Oh my God, that's so funny.
Yeah, it's really good. It's funny, like, I didn't know what to expect from that lineup. But going back and rewatching it a little bit, I realize now that the entire lineup is just what the private game looks like whenever all of the recs leave and they open it up to the public. Like that exact lineup. I've played that lineup a dozen times where it's just like, okay, I'm buried. All the wrecks have left, or maybe one stuck around. And then, Sergio gets let into the game. Kier gets let into the game. What's the kid's name that bluffed him? Danny gets let into the game. You know what I mean? Like suddenly it's just like, oh, okay, this is what we do now. And I wasn't sure that it would convert well to TV because it's always a fun game to play public. We all kind of understand, we know what we're doing and we're just playing the game. And there's a lot more banter and stuff like that because you don't have to worry about like, talking over somebody in a smallish pot or whatever. You just trust that everybody's going to be pretty good in those scenarios. And I wasn't sure that it would translate well to TV, but man, it was so good.
Looks like there was just one big winner.
Yeah, Alex crushed. I don't know anything about him other than he's an online player who does pretty well and has played at the Lodge before. I didn't really watch a ton of the content, but he seems like he's just fast, good action, and kind of just smashed the game for all of it.
$250,000.
Is he related to Lewis Spencer?
No.
Same last name.
Yeah, the same last name.
Well, two British guys with the same last name.
Wait, maybe he is.
Did he have a scarf on?
What?
Did he have a scarf on?
I don't know.
Did you see?
Dude,
Please tell me you saw this Poker News report of Lewis.
I've seen a picture of Lewis with a scarf, but I don't know if that's what you're talking about.
There was like 100 people left in the 5K main at WSOP.
Yeah.
And Lewis opens blind versus blind.
Mm-hmm.
Big blind calls. It comes like ace, king, X. Lewis bets, gets called, turns an ace. Lewis bets again, gets called. River, brick. Lewis jams, king's full, and gets called by quad aces.
Wow.
And the Poker News article read something to the effect of a perfectly slow played aces sends Lewis and his scarf to the payout line.
Dude, I was dying when I read that shit.
Oh man,
it was
I can't believe
good.
We're just getting to the point now where like subtle Twitter memes that have gone around have circulated themselves all the way into Poker News media.
Wow.
That was so good, and whoever wrote this, bravo.
Don't applaud this.
I tell you what, though.
That was good.
Speaking of scarves, it's been super cold in the Wynn tournament room the last couple of days.
I saw Farrah tweeting something about it.
I was freezing my ass off yesterday.
Were you in the poker room side or the ballroom? The ballroom.
Yeah,
okay.
It was really cold.
She actually asked for it for them to put the AC on, I think.
Sure. I for everybody that runs cold or runs hot, I guess I can't breathe. I'm so perpetually cold all of the time. And like when the summer rolls around and we're at the WSOP and they just have the AC cranked down to like 59 degrees, I die. Like that's another thing that definitely pushes me away from tournament poker. The venues are so fucking cold. I'm never cold playing cash. It's just not a thing. But I digress.
Yes.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the WPT since day 1A kicked off yesterday.
It did.
We have how many runners?
602, I believe.
So 602 for day 1A.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at 4 day ones.
Correct.
They need to crack 4,000.
Yeah.
To get it
total. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're on pace.
I think so.
We're on pace with the assumption that day 4 is always going to be
definitely
massive.
Yeah. Right.
Definitely on.
They'll get
pace.
like 2,000 on day 1D at least.
I am coming around to it hits the 50 million mark.
I think it will. I've been saying I think there's a good chance it does, and I think I'm pretty confident at this point.
Yeah, I was a little shocked when Pads threw that number out there, but I think after seeing Bahamas hit their 15 million guarantee and not overlay anything, I become a lot more confident that this 40 mil is just going to get shattered.
Man,
everywhere is crushing those guarantees, man.
Tournament poker is absolutely popping, and like nobody does it better than the Wynn. Like nothing feels better than playing at the Wynn. So I feel like a lot of people are just going to come out.
I agree, and I tweeted about this the other day. I couldn't believe, like, if you contrast the fact that Wynn and WPT just ran a 10,000 player 1K buy-in, and you look at the amount of chaos that happens at WSOP every time they get 6, 7, 10,000 runners for an event, how many long lines there are, how much registration chaos, like waiting for a seat, all that stuff. it's incredible that the Wynn and WPT managed to pull this off so smoothly. There's absolutely no hitches. I don't see people complaining about anything. Like, they've done such a great job with this
Well, it's
series.
almost like
I don't think
they had a
Kessler's
year
in town.
No, Kessler's here. Oh, he's here. Sarah Herring confronted him about asking him to fire one of her employees.
Wow. Strong. It's almost like as if they had a year to plan for it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, WSOP has a year every year.
That's my sarcasm.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay.
It's just like, you know, it's almost as if they anticipated that they were going to be running a huge festival at the end of the year that might get thousands of people to show up. Yeah, I haven't been there yet. Last year was amazing. I've seen the set so far. It's gorgeous. Like, Sharehands does such an incredible job on the production and the cash games, as well as I guess the Prime was being streamed yesterday. Looks amazing. So the Prime's actually down to the final table today. I think they're down to the final table of 9.
Yeah. I am not there this year, as you can imagine.
You are not, and that makes me very sad because
I died 3 times.
It's so much bigger this year.
I know. I'm so tilted. I'm like looking at. I got 8th last year, and I'm like looking at it, and it's like double the amount of money this year.
Yeah,
it's like
it's so
170K this year. It was 91 last year. I'm so tilted.
Yeah. So
Picked the wrong year.
Calvin Anderson comes in third in chips. Everybody has so many chips. Jesus, was it this deep when you made it?
No.
Okay, the average stack here is like 50 bigs.
Yeah, the average at the final table last time was like 30, 35.
Okay.
That's still deep.
Yeah, because I came in, I don't know if I was chip leader when we actually made it to 9, but like with like 11 left, I was chip leader and I had like 80, 85. But there were a lot of stacks in the 25 to 40 region.
Okay, so there are a few notable names here. It looks like Cal Anderson's coming in with 61 bigs. He's third in chips.
Cal crushes these big fields, man.
He does.
He absolutely wrecks them.
Muckle's back. He is one of the short stacks. So there are 2 short stacks. Tree Dow has 17 bigs. Muck has 18. Everybody else has over 30. The third shortest stack is Yubin Guao, who has 33 bigs.
It's pretty sick.
And then after that, it's 47, 60, 61, 68, and 73.
My God, if Cal gets a hold of a little bit
Gets
more
a
chip,
hold of, he has 61 bigs.
Yes, but he is going to have a fucking ICM field day.
Am I wrong to think that Cal is still one of the people that just absolutely refuses to believe ICM is a thing?
Probably not, but that's why I'm saying, like, when he's on the other side of that, I mean,
my guy is a YOLO master. Like, those 61 blinds are fucking in play.
But yeah, when he has the chip lead in this spot, other people are just in hell.
He's in a very good position. He's in the 1 seat with 61 bigs. The 9 seat has 68 bigs. The 8 seat has 73. So he's third in chips, and he has 2 and 1 to his immediate right. But he has number 4 to his immediate left, who has 60 bigs. So they're basically tied.
So all the chips are on one side of the table.
Yeah. The 8, 9, 1, 2 are 1 through 4 in chips.
Wow.
It's a really, really awkward distribution.
Yeah, it's interesting though.
It really favors the middling stacks.
Yeah.
Right. And it also, I would assume this is going to be a really, really slow, grindy type of final table.
Probably.
Pay jumps are big. 9th is 135 versus 1.38.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The jumps between 9th and 7th, relatively small. 8th is 173. 7th is 225.
It's so crazy that for an average for a 1K is 9th place.
Yeah.
Like, that's absurd.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild, man. It's wild. But yeah, it does look like that this will finish today, come hell or high water. And I imagine it's going to be a slow one. So I think that the plan is they're going to stream this one today. They have the ladies cash game tomorrow, which I'm actually looking forward to. It's going to be it's maybe the high stakes ladies game that I think I've seen.
50-100?
50-100.
Okay.
I think the lineup is going to be Lily Coletto. Oh man, my brain is melting.
Schwann's probably in there.
Schwann
right?
is in there. Yeah, it was literally just sent to me this morning. I'm losing my mind. Okay, here we go. How do I make this bigger so I can read? God, I'm getting old. Lily Coletto, Poker Mama's in there. Casey Mills, Xuan Lu, Kitty Quao, Rhonda DiMartino, who I do not know, is in there. She's the only unknown. One of my friends, Iris, who plays in the Bellagio game with me, is in there. And then there are a few alternates that I guess I don't want to name in case they don't get seats kind of thing. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be a great display of, women who have studied No Limit Hold'em pretty intently. I think that this has been lacking, right? Like we saw some Poker Night in Americas way back in the day where it was like quarter 50 and they put on a good women's game. One sticks out in my mind. I think it was in Florida. It was, I think Kate Hall, maybe Cherish was in there. Who else was in there? There was a big hand. Oh, it was
Lily?
She might have been, but there was a big hand between like Kate Hall and Abernathy, I think. Okay. And I think at the time, the illest was in there too, Kelly Mencken. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the lineup was great. Yeah, here we go. This is it. This wasn't the hand, but that doesn't really matter. Anyway, there was a massive bluff that
what was it between, Matt?
I think it was between Abernathy and Kate Hall, but I can't recall, and I don't recall which one of them ran it. But I just remember that the action was like a lot of fun to watch, and I don't think that we get to see enough of this. I think we forget like how many women are actually out there just like crushing that are capable of playing the mid to high stakes. Like for instance, there were 2 games at the Bellagio yesterday of 100-100, and my table had 3 women at it. Like this is something that kind of just like happens behind closed doors, and we focus so much on the tournament side of things because that's the way poker works, right? We just always put a big emphasis on tournaments. So if women aren't winning MTTs for 6 and 7 figures, then suddenly like they don't get proper representation of how big of a part of the collective high stakes community there may be. Yeah. But yeah, there's like a lot of low-key crushers out there, and I think it'll be fun to watch. Then that follows up with the G-Man return on Friday to round out the live streams. After that, I guess it's just going to be like day 2 down to the winner
of the main. 10K. Yeah. That's what I would expect.
Yo, somebody's doing a sick documentary about, he's basically following one player.
Okay.
I think it's I think it was a qualifier. He's following one player from basically start to finish. So every time if he loses his chips to somebody, then he follows that person.
Oh, that's super sharp.
Dude,
that's cool.
When he told me my jaw dropped, I was like, holy shit, that is so fucking good.
It's so smart because I was immediately going to poke holes and say, who cares? The
Yeah,
guy's
I know
just
what you were
going to
gonna
bust.
say.
Yeah, the guy's just going to bust. Like, who
I
cares?
should have let you say it. Fuck.
Right? No, that's really great.
Dude, I can't wait to see this. I'd see how it turns out. It
Yeah.
seems pretty cool.
I think it's going to be really interesting, at least just to see over the course of a big tournament like that, how many times, this person busts to this person and, what a sequence there is, because it's just in tournaments, you don't just like build a stack and then just ride it to the final table. It's like there's going to be so many, the chips go to here and then they go here and then they go here and then they go here. And it's going to be really interesting.
It's also really, it's really genius because I think inevitably, and, correct me if I'm wrong, but I just think based off the nature of the way that the structure works, you'll always end up following the winner.
Right.
By the time it's all said and done.
You would have to, yeah.
And I think that we forget about that because, like, there was this narrative that I had going for a long time in my head when I cared about tournaments in, like, the early 2010s, where I was just like, I always just bust to the fucking winner. Like, if you bust me, you're going to win the event. Like, that's just the way it works. And then I realized, like, oh, well, that's because you were second in chips with 14 left and you lost to the chip leader. Mm-hmm. So it's like, yeah, he's probably going to fucking win a lot of the time.
It's like, oh, I lost a huge flip for the chip lead, and then the guy that won it went on and won the tournament.
Right.
Like, oh, go figure.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that would be a really cool kind of, like, storyline to follow.
Yeah.
Is it? Do you think it's difficult for him to get the people involved to cooperate?
I think it probably will be.
Right? Like, what if you just lose to a guy who's just like, fuck off, man. I don't want you to follow me. I don't want you to document this.
I think that'll be the biggest obstacle. I think there'll be at least a few people who just don't want to have a documentary filming them like the whole time. So,
well, guess what?
What's that?
You signed the waiver.
That's true.
Oh, it's a WPT thing?
Yeah. Like, okay, that's cool.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you have people signing the waivers, then they might not agree to do interviews or whatever.
Correct.
But they can't force you to do that. You know?
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good idea.
That's really cool.
So dope.
Look forward to seeing it.
We should do that. We should do that zoomed out now.
How so?
How so?
I don't know exactly what would take the place of like losing your tournament life to someone, but instead of like following someone through start to finish through like an event where there's an eventual winner, you do it like a career. Like this person backed me, so you follow the backer kind of thing, and then like you follow that person through their rises and falls, and like if they fail, then I don't know, maybe it ends. But if they succeed, then they like back the next person, and it's just
That's
like this
funny.
never ending.
Yeah, you could also do it like from tournament to tournament. You could do it like someone busts a certain tournament, someone gets their chips, whatever, and then you follow the winner of that tournament, and the next tournament they play, you follow the person who gets their chips in that tournament, and you just go like all over the world.
Oh, that's so good because
all kinds of tournaments.
Yeah, and you get to see how when somebody wins the tournament, guess what they go do?
Right.
Play the next one.
Yeah. And then the next one, they just like, because they don't care anymore because they got too much money, they just pumped it off in the first hand.
Honestly, wow, that's actually a really great idea for a series.
Yeah.
This would just be one episode, right? So it would be the WPT Championship episode.
Yeah.
And then they take that winner and they follow him to like the next major. Like let's say it's PCA, which I don't think is in January anymore, but like let's pretend that it still was. Now you follow that winner to PCA,
right?
And then you create the exact same thing, walking away with the PCA winner.
Yeah.
And then follow him to the next thing.
I think you would have to do that if it was going to be somebody to do that. I think it would have to be like it would be like the EPT or the WPT would have to organize it.
Yeah.
Because it'd be so hard to coordinate it between all the different tours.
Yeah.
But if WPT or somebody was to do that and say, okay, take whoever wins the championship and then follow them, give them a seat in the next WPT event, follow them to that event, and just do the same thing every WPT.
To be fair, nowadays I think it would be easier to get everybody on board.
Yeah, probably a little easier.
But you don't want to gamble. Hunt's right. Like,
that's probably true.
You would definitely prefer it to just be one solo tour.
And give them a seat alongside winning. Give them a free seat in the next main event.
Yeah.
And then when they play, like you just follow them. And even if they just bust in one hand, like you've got the next person, you do the same thing for the next
It's
tournament.
so smart, man. Wow, that is so good.
It's
so good because
I don't know if I said too much or like whatever, like because he just started filming it like 24 hours ago, but I guess whatever. Shout out to Mike Bailey. He's the one that came up with this idea.
Well, if WPT wants to give me any royalties for the continuing, they can feel free.
It truly is genius. And yeah, like for WPT, like what a great way to kind of build out marketing, but more importantly, like regular people would watch this.
Yeah.
Dude,
this
so
could be
sharp.
a Netflix series.
It is so fucking sharp. I like when I say my jaw dropped and I was like, holy shit, that's genius. That's exactly what happened.
There's two types of shows that come to mind when I think of something like this. It's the F1 one, Drive to Survive.
100% what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And there's
what came to
also
mind.
another one. I don't know if you know, on Amazon. Have you heard of All or Nothing?
Yeah.
So I think they've done it with a couple of like NFL teams, but
Yeah.
they do it with soccer teams. They've done it with the New Zealand All Blacks rugby team. These All or Nothing behind the scenes documentaries. To do something like that with poker where you follow the winner and then you follow the next person and the next person, that would be super good.
I think the reason why I'm so invested in this idea, or why I think it's so smart, is because it forces character development for so many people that otherwise go kind of unseen or unheard of, right? Like even someone like Ben Wynn, we just know he's out there crushing, right? But like there isn't a whole lot of his character being put out on display. And maybe that's by design, maybe he doesn't care to, whatever. But the point is that nothing about our industry creates stars, right? Like he had the sickest 12 to 18 months maybe of anybody in the open field events, right? Like outside the high roller scene.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know shit about this guy.
Yeah.
I just have a general sense for how he plays based off of some TV hands that I've watched.
And he likes to fuck around at Red Rock.
Yeah, we know that he likes to splash around at Red Rock and put Nikki in the cage. But like, outside of that, it's like, what's going on? And to be fair, I'm not insinuating that like, oh, we should have a documentary on Ben, because it's like, well, that probably wouldn't be interesting either.
Yeah.
But this suddenly creates a framework where it's just like it's inevitable that you would just get to know this guy a little bit, just through a little bit of interviewing, and then you'd get to know the local yokel that busted him out of an event, and you followed him around for 5 or 6 hours before his ultimate demise. I don't know. I think that the actual character development, especially when you're able to do it en masse like that, is it just does a lot, I think, to kind of hook the audience in a little bit more.
And I think WPT's always been really good at that. Like, I think they've always been good at building people's personalities, like the edited shows that they have. I don't know if they still do them, but the shows that they used to do where they would spotlight the qualifiers and all this stuff, and they would really make it very rec friendly. I mean, they've been playing old footage on the screens in the ballroom the last few days, and I keep seeing like all this super old footage coming up, but they have such accessible things about it. Like, they'll have explanations of poker terms pop up on the screen. They'll have like, this person's current hand, like what cards are playing, what cards are in play, like an explanation of why does their kicker not play in this spot, like everything that's like making this accessible for someone who's never seen poker.
The Travel Channel coverage specifically, like we're talking like 2006-ish. It was really good. Like, it would literally explain like the button.
Yeah.
And why the button was important.
Right.
And it was a running joke. Like, I would play home games and I would have the button and I would be like, I learned on the Travel Channel I'm supposed to raise when I have this. Like that kind of thing.
I never knew it was on the Travel Channel. That's wild.
Oh yeah, that was the original deal that they signed. It was on the Travel Channel, and then I think it may have been on Bravo at one point. I'm not sure.
Bravo seems like it'd be a good fit for WPT.
It had bounced around a bunch of different. Of course,
yeah. Tortoise would. That was probably what got him into poker if it was ever on Bravo.
Christ. All right, real quick, let's go through some notable chip counts, and then we can talk about your day.
Yeah, sure.
So Keating actually bagged third in chips for 957,000.
That's a lot of thousands.
That's a lot of thousands. So it's about 9.5 starting stacks. Arden Cho right behind him, fourth in chips. She bagged 800K. Shout out to my man Jeremy Joseph from the Buffalo area. I used to battle with him in Niagara Falls back in college. I think he's from Michigan originally, but he bagged 773K.
Man, how do you know it's him? There are so many Jeremy Josephs out there.
I'll bet money it's him. I'll bet money it's him.
I do not want to bet.
Scroll. Let me see if there's a picture.
Come on, one time.
Yep, that's him.
Damn it.
100% him. Why don't I ever get these bets in, man? Bornstein comes in 6 in chips, 745.
Oh, man.
And then got to give a shout out to Pads. Maybe a little podcast run good. I don't know. First event back, 700,000 since his trip to New York. Then a bunch of names we don't really recognize, but they all bagged. Oh, the Dragon.
The Dragon, David Finn.
The Dragon.
David the Dragon.
Oh, and Chad Power rounding out the 20th spot.
We haven't talked about him recently. Has anything interesting happened with him recently?
Nothing really.
Nothing's
going
on
there.
Nothing's going on with Chad Power.
Probably looking to get $5 million to fund his next fucking rug. All right, let's talk a little bit about your day, because you're not here because you earned it.
Yeah, I'm not here because I earned it. That's true. Yeah, I guess maybe I'm in the muck right now. I don't know. But
okay.
I played a
Strat Chat Plus in the muck.
Yeah,
Let's go.
Strat Chat Plus in the muck. I don't know. Just played a really big one, level 3, lost it, and here we are. So a little bit of an annoying day yesterday. Not sure if it's a spot that could have gone differently. It just kind of, you come out of it feeling like maybe I could have done something different, but I can't identify anything specific that I think would be an obvious different way to play the hand. So, just one of those really frustrating spots, I guess.
What was, or I guess give us the dynamic of what the big hand was.
Sure. So it's level 3. I've been pretty quiet. Like, I've been kind of card dead except for flopping a set and winning a small pot one time. Haven't been playing a ton of hands. This is I've only 3-bet a few times, but coincidentally 2 of those times it's been specifically against the player to my direct right, just because I got good spots. And so I have about 108K, so just above starting, because I've won a few small pots and otherwise just not much has happened. Player to my direct right, who seems like a reg, seems like he kind of knows what he's doing, but doesn't seem particularly confident and comfortable with the live environment. Has done a couple things that seem a bit weird, like opening to unusual sizes and things like that. So I'm not exactly sure like what kind of reg he is. He opens to 2.5x on the button. We have ace 9 of hearts in the small blind, more than 100 bigs deep, and decide to 3-bet to, I guess, he opened to 2K at 400, 800, last hand of 400, 800, and I made it 9K. He calls. Oh, no, he doesn't call. Sorry. He 4-bets. He 4-bets to 21, and his timing was such that I was pretty confident that it was more bluff heavy because it was a lot slower. It was like longer period before 4-betting.
Yeah.
And I feel like
that's only really relevant for later in the hand, right? Like
Yeah,
you have a
exactly.
pure call here anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I was never not going to call in this spot anyway with ace 9 suited. But you know, I was especially happy and confident to do it because I was pretty sure that the timing pre was like relatively bluff heavy, and it didn't feel like it was going to be one of those hands that was just like
He had a head
obvious.
scratcher, if you will.
Yeah, like he had a bit of a head scratcher, and it was also just like I say, this was my third 3-bet against him specifically, and people just kind of get this feeling that you're picking on them when this happens, and they just start to feel like I'm going to 4-bet at some point. So he made it 21K. We call. So we go to the flop with 44K or so in the pot, 43K-ish. And it comes ace 7-3 rainbow, no heart. So pretty good flop for our hand. We check, which we pretty much have to do with range. He bets 10%, so you know, fairly straightforward sizing for a 4-bet pot in this formation. So he bets 4,500 into like 43K. I actually did think about like a weird small raise because these spots where you unblock some of the like kings, queens, jacks, etc., that can't just bet fold. Like sometimes you do see these weird thin value raises, and I looked this spot up, and ace 9 actually does check raise a little frequency here.
Yeah, I imagine it starts to come in pretty heavily once you have like ace jack plus.
Yeah, exactly. So ace 9 is like a low frequency check raise, but I did decide to just call. I probably wouldn't really be doing much raising here in the end. And this is definitely where it starts to get interesting because the turn is another 7 and it's Badoogie. So it's now ace 7 3 7. No flush draws or backdoors or anything like that. And there's 54K or so in the pot, and about like I guess at this point it would be 70 something behind, 68, 70K behind, something like that.
It's like 1.3 SPR.
A bit more than that actually. It's like 77 or 78K behind.
Yeah, you went to the flop at about 2 SPR.
Yeah. So we're at a point where you know, it's still obviously a pretty decent board for my hand, and not really concerned about kind of going anywhere at this point. We check, and he bets 18K, which is like just about a third pot, a little bit. Actually, no, I guess there wasn't 77 in the pot at this point. There was 77 after he bet. So there's 54K in the pot. He bets 18K. And again, we're just at a point where we're getting too good of a price to fold an ace. Like we can't really ever fold any kind of an ace here. We can fold, you know, any of the hands that floated the flop with like backdoors and things like that. Some of the weakest portions of our range.
Some under pairs.
Yeah, like we're gonna have like a very occasional bit of like 5-4 suited or something that peels the flop. So we call, and so there's nothing to be done differently here. River comes the 10 of spades, so it's now ace 7 3 7 10. We check with, and at this point there's 90K in the pot, and we have 59,300 behind. We check, and he bets 50K, and this felt really weird because like, why not jam, right? And so this was the aspect of it that I was kind of in the muck about, because it was a lot of like live dynamic stuff. Like I looked this spot up, and this hand calls in pure, like facing a jam, this hand just calls in pure. But I had a couple of things that I was specifically curious about to ask you when it comes to like tell related stuff and dynamic related stuff. And the first one was, how are you going to interpret it when you see something like this where there's 59K behind? It's a pretty trivial spot for him to have just a check and a jam. And then he bets 50K. Like, what's your first thought seeing that?
In isolation, it's relatively meaningless to me.
Okay.
People
Because it felt fairly meaningless to me too.
Yeah, in isolation.
Mm-hmm.
But coupled with the other things that you spoke about, I think that it starts to take on a little bit of meaning.
Okay.
Generally, in my opinion, when you make a bit of a weighted assumption that he's lighter pre than maybe he otherwise should be, when people start to choose the custom sizings post, I think that they tend to be very value heavy.
Okay.
And I wouldn't have the difficulty here is like I wouldn't have shifted my mind from I was wrong pre and he must have like aces full here.
Yeah.
So much as I would have been like, what random 7 or like what random like full house or like does he have ace 7 kind of stuff like that. That would be the doubt that would start to creep into my mind a bit.
Yeah.
I just tend to notice that custom sizings go one way or the other, and they're usually heavily incentivized by what they want you to do. And the issue here is that when the custom size applies less pressure to your range, my instinct would be that it's almost certain to be pure value.
Right. And I did think about that. Like this was the thing that I did think like, is this literally just a case of he has value and he thinks that I fold slightly more often if he jams and he just doesn't ever bluff for this size.
Right.
The other aspect of it was, and this was the kind of thing that also could have been a bit meaningless, but he was not generally like verbalizing his bets, but his bet on the flop and on the turn he verbalized, and then on the river he just took 225k chips and just kind of flicked them out there.
Right.
And I wasn't sure if that had any significance at all either, just because I think he maybe didn't have the right chips in his stack for his sizings on the flop and turn. I can't remember exactly.
Well, that was going to be my next question. When you looked this spot up, like how flop is fine. What did you find as far as like his turn strat should be? Because it seems like this is a little inconsistent with what I would imagine. Because he's pretty polarized when he bets 3 times.
Yeah, I didn't look at it in enough detail. I just kind of clicked through the actual approximate sizings that he used.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the right sizing for him. It's like
I'd be shocked if it wasn't.
2E.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if it wasn't just 2E.
Yeah, I think I would expect a 2E size here, and his size of like bet 33 is a bit less than 2E.
Yeah.
I think I would have expected like 25k or something like that.
Yeah, I think like 42ish is probably going to be around 2E there.
Yeah. So I didn't look it up in like enough detail to see that, but I did feel like...
But I think that's telling too, right? Because again, like the custom size is smaller than the optimal size.
Yeah.
Whereas like when you're bluffing, the custom size tends to be larger than the optimal size.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. So there was that aspect, and then there was also the other aspect, which was another sort of tail-based thing, and I've definitely fallen into a trap this year of making too many river calls based on live tells, and some of them have gone well.
Yep.
Some of them have not.
Yep.
This call that I made definitely wasn't based on the tell, but I was frustrated with myself because I observed something that I wasn't sure how to interpret, and I could feel like a bias towards interpreting it as weak. I could sense myself in the moment of being a little bit more biased towards wanting to call. And what it was he's sitting to my direct right? So I can get a very clear sense of like what his behavior is. And he's like, as I'm like sitting there tanking, he's like, I can feel he's kind of looking at me, or he's like, at least his eyes are looking at me because he's sort of paying attention to what I'm doing. And then I look at him and he like averts his eyes a little bit. And then I look away again and he looks back at me, and then I look back at him and he averts his eyes again, like he starts looking down. Right?
Classic reverse tell.
Right.
Got it.
Classic reverse tell.
So like I looked at that and I was like, that clearly means something, right?
Yeah.
And I consciously said like this could very easily be. I mean, I don't necessarily think I gave this guy enough credit for putting off a reverse tell. I just
It
thought,
might not have even been intentional.
yeah, like that. It didn't feel intentional because this wasn't a guy who seemed comfortable enough at the table that he could have pulled out a reverse tell like that. It just seemed like, I know this is a significant behavior, and I just don't know whether it it's obviously polarizing.
Well, you
right?
also have
like,
a pure theory call, so that makes it a lot easier.
Exactly. But like, I could feel myself in the moment. Like, there was part of me that was like, I kind of feel like that might actually be strong. And I sort of, some sort of bias came in, and I shifted towards thinking it was weak. So I ended up calling, and obviously we lost, and we lost to King 7 of Hearts. So pretty frustrating one to lose to, because obviously it's a very low frequency hand to be in his range.
Yeah.
I did feel like on the river, the actual value range that I was thinking about was like, you just have like ace king or some weird hand or nothing, you know? Like, there's a lot of Broadway hands that he can 4-bet bluff pre that would barrel off in this line. He can easily just take like a king jack or something and just blast off. And it's like you say, it's a pure theory call. So like, if it is a spot where to make the big fold would have, or to make the fold would have been, you know, heavily exploitative, or it would have been like an outside the box kind of a fold to make. So I'm definitely not beating myself up about it, but it was a spot where there are a bunch of these little things, like you say, that like
they kind of add up.
Yeah, small things regarding the sizings, like behavioral stuff. There's just a few different things that I feel like if I was like at 100% instead of at 80% of my best, I might have been able to look at that stuff and find a really big fold.
I think there's a few things I want to make comment on. So first, when somebody B10s in that spot in a 4-bet pot, I'm gonna give them credit for not missing sizings on later streets.
And this is basically why I just decided, okay, I can't like make a huge fold that easily on the river, because as soon as I saw him B10, I was like, okay, he's definitely gonna have triple barrels.
Right. The problem is, and I would have made the same mistake in real time. The problem is not identifying the red flag when he custom sizes turn. Then.
See, I guess in real time I didn't necessarily see the turn as a custom sizing. I just saw it as there are a lot of regs who don't necessarily understand geometric sizes enough to what they could. Like, I think people are a bit more inclined to like leave a bigger river shove.
I get what you're saying.
So I thought it could easily be not so much custom as just.
But who of that collective that you're speaking of bets 10%?
Yeah, that's fair. That's
right.
Totally
if he had
fair.
bet 20% on flop or 15% or 25%, I would have given him the credit to just like, he doesn't think exact, right? He's not purposeful. It's just roundabout-ish, right? But when you face 10% pot, that's very exact. That's precise. That's a strategy. And it'd be very hard for me to believe that like he hasn't looked at geometric sizings.
Yeah, that's probably very fair. So in retrospect, you know, turn was a little bit custom. And we just, you know, we arrived at I kind of recognized it on the river, like this is a theory call. Like he does have some 7X. Like there's going to be bits of like the suited king 7, obviously, which is what he did have. There's going to be bits of like small fractions of 7-6 suited. There's going to be ace 7 suited. I don't think aces full takes this line, because I think it checks at some point.
Probably.
Because it's so hard for me to call down when he has aces full. Because I just have so little 7X, and when I do have 7X, he gets my whole stack anyway. So I feel like aces, I would expect to check turn probably. I think that, you know, ace queen, ace jack, like I don't think those hands 4-bet in pure. I don't think they triple off.
Ace queen might be close to 0. Ace jack off, good bluff hand, maybe sometimes.
Ace jack off is supposed to 4-bet pre sometimes, but I think a lot of people just flat it. I don't think, I mean, the board itself opens up so many Broadway hands that can fire off. Like, I don't necessarily think if he has like jack 10 or king 10, I don't think he's necessarily going to check the river. I think quite often he'll just bluff that hand.
So I guess that's where I'm coming back to with the sizing aspect is like, so personally, like the more that I've worked on it, the more that I study it, I've gotten in the habit of just thinking in geometric sizings because you can plan everything off of that. Right. If you know what the geometric size is, then you can find the next size above it and below it pretty easily and recognize like, okay, that is consistent with the strategy or that's custom kind of thing. So, you know, once we're already in a low SPR situation going post, I would just know going into the flop, like what to expect for GO3, what to expect for GO2. When he hits me with 10%, I realize like that's not necessarily custom. It's just a kind of 4-bet pot hack that people utilize in position a lot to carry all the entire range over to the next street. And then it becomes a 2-street game of generally GO2. Right. So I'd be like, okay, I wouldn't think much about that. I would be like, good player, probably, shortcuts a little bit of study, goes B10 here, fine, no big deal. Especially ace high, it's very reasonable.
Sure.
Now we get to the turn, and it's like, okay, I would expect only check in GO2. And then I get hit with something smaller. And it's like, that's the point where I would just be like, okay, what does smaller mean? Because my instinct, and it very well could be wrong, but it's generally going to be, my instinct says that if he's going smaller than optimal, it's to rope me in. It's very rarely going to be to carry me through to another street where things can change again unfavorably for him, and now he's just going to pile it on me.
Wow, I was thinking the opposite.
Really? Why?
Yeah, because when he goes really small, I'm thinking, well, if he wants value from his hand, why not put more money in the pot?
It's a very difficult board to extract value.
Yeah,
it's ace 7-7-3.
Yeah, I think if there were any kind of draws out there, or if it was more of a texture where I would have hands that would be drawing live against his
Correct.
value,
Yeah.
like I would expect a little bigger. I think at this point, when you have a 7 and you turn trips, that's where it becomes like, oh, he just wants to make sure.
It's just reactionary, right? It's like, oh, fuck, I wasn't expecting that.
He wants to make sure that I don't fold like 9s on the turn.
Right, right. And then the inverse of that is when you're bluffing, you're just in the pre-planned line.
Right.
Right? You're in the prescribed line of B10, GO2, GO all in, right? And you don't shift off of that because you're just committed to the line.
Yeah.
You just made that. The last thing that I guess I would comment on is I find it interesting that you picked up on the eye contact tail.
Yeah.
So this is one that like people notoriously use. I've used it so much throughout my career to get called. And it works like a charm because our human instinct says that when somebody's uncomfortable enough to break eye contact with us, that they're obviously weak, right? But this is a deceptive game. So it's spun into the weak means strong, strong means weak kind of thing. And it really is just that trivial. When was the last time somebody was bluffing and they made eye contact with you and then broke?
Right.
It only goes one of two ways. People bluff and they will stare you the fuck down. They will just stare into your eyes and never break eye contact because it's a pacifying thing for them where they're trying to represent strength and they calm themselves that way. Or the exact opposite. They pick a spot on the table and they never break concentration. They just stare straight ahead, right? They don't do any of the looking around because the last thing you want to do is make yourself more anxious.
Right.
You're trying to run a bluff, so you need to pacify yourself. The last thing you want to do is like out of the corner of your eye, try to catch the guy and see like, well, is he going to fucking kill me here or not?
Hurry the fuck up already.
Like, the opposite is like what you actually physically want to do. You just want to close your eyes and say like, somebody wake me up when it's all over.
I go right to my phone.
That's interesting.
Wait, when you're all in?
I would snap you so fucking fast.
When I'm bluffing, because I'm just like, okay, I need to try to feel relaxed.
Yeah,
I
think that's like a huge giveaway.
Yeah. So I always just go to my phone or just kind of feel like, like whatever.
Yeah, because like you won't do that when you're strong because that's a pacifying action, right? That's basically what it comes down to. We're talking very specific about like, eye contact, this, that, and the other. But the truth is what you want to be looking for in these situations is what is the person doing to try to pacify themselves, right? Whether it's a hand on the cheek. I caught Garrett in a huge bluff spot like 5 years ago because he was eating as he jammed. And he just like, he didn't break stride with the eating. And I was just like, that's so contrived. Like this is definitely a pacifying type of thing. If you were all in with something you cared about, you would at least be interested enough to engage the fact that we're playing a poker hand. And so like, you just want to be looking for that type of stuff. The stare straight ahead and then kind of like make eye contact and look away type of thing. It's so revolting to the person who's trying to get a read that it works.
Yeah. It wasn't, the funny part of it wasn't even necessarily like an eye contact thing. It was literally just, are his eyes like at eye level or are they looking down?
Right.
It was like, because he wasn't looking right at me. He wasn't like turning.
No.
Right
but it was clear he was like trying to get you in his peripheral.
Yeah, like he was watching for what I was doing.
Yes.
And then he looked down when I looked at him. And it felt like a genuine attempt to avoid giving off anything. Yeah. And because of the fact that his general demeanor was like, he seemed a little bit less at ease with the environment, maybe. Like I said, he seemed like he knew what he was doing, and I now know, having looked him up, that he's mostly an online kind of a reg from Pennsylvania.
He's probably just excited.
Yeah, right. And like this was a 10K, and it's obviously a very soft 10K. So there's a lot of players in this field who don't usually play 10Ks.
Right.
I kind of had the vibe that maybe he was in that category of players who don't play this type of buy-in a lot, and it felt like a fairly genuine reaction. And I guess the struggle for me was trying to piece together all of that information about his behavior, the sizings, all of that stuff, trying to piece it together in a way that allowed me to come firmly in one side or the other.
Well, I think the good news is, in this situation, even though you died, is that it doesn't really matter that much to you because you have a hand that takes pure action.
Yeah.
So in other words, basically, if you misread his body language in some capacity and you called, well, you were calling anyway.
Yeah.
With no information you're calling.
My default going into that river was like, I'm going to call a lot of rivers.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking at that and thinking like, oh, it's a hero call to call with an AC.
Right. So like really where the live stuff comes into play is when it sways us so far in the other direction that we can make an exploitative fold, and we're comfortably right about that.
Yeah. And I think at this point, they're just... It didn't feel like there was enough, I wouldn't say I was like super happy about it, but it just didn't feel like there was enough.
But that's busting tournaments in a nutshell, right?
Exactly,
You're never super happy about the hand.
And the reality is also that he didn't put me all in for my tournament life. So like it does matter a little bit. That
makes it a lot more comfortable.
He didn't put those last 9K chips at risk. And so I was like, well, I'm still alive if I call and lose. And the funny part was like I called and lost, and then like 2 hands later, it's like 5s to ace king. So I missed out anyway.
Right.
So the fact that I had some chips left over ended up not mattering whatsoever. But you
win that flip, suddenly you have 20 big blinds, that kind of thing.
Exactly. But like so I guess the only reason I mentioned that is because if I had like run it back up again, like maybe we wouldn't be here talking about me being in the muck, like maybe I would have just been like, oh, it's cool.
I mean, to be fair, even if you had ran it back up and bagged piles, I really do think it's a fascinating spot. And I think it illuminates both the power and the misconception that like playing live and having more information can lead to. And I say it that way because obviously it's very powerful to be able to gather this information and process it in some sort of capacity. But to believe that it adds anything more than like a small sliver of an edge to just playing sound poker is a bit of a misleading notion. There's a lot of guys out there with the tells.
Yeah, there's no way that behavioral reads could make up for not knowing that this hand is a theoretical call.
Correct.
Right.
Like
if I don't recognize that like ace 9 is supposed to call here because it unblocks all the bluffs and he has so many hands that just have to bluff and he has such a limited value range. Like if I don't recognize all that, it doesn't matter what I know about his behavior. It's not going to help.
Right. If you arrive at that spot and you're genuinely just like, I truly don't know what this hand is supposed to do. I think it probably does both.
Yeah.
Then you've already given up a fair amount of EV. And now, sure, maybe the live stuff will help you guess a little bit stronger, but it's never going to make up for whatever percentage of the time that you're folding there because you don't know that it's a natural pure call.
Yeah, and I think there's also a misconception about these types of spots simply because they're such big pots. Like a 4-bet pot is a very big pot, but it's a very low SPR spot,
right?
Which means that the frequency that he has to be bluffing, if his value range here is like pretty much like 8 combos of ace king, and like a few other combos of ace 7 and some other random stuff. Like if his value range is like 12 combos, I really don't have to be able to find very many bluffs. I have to find like 4 combos of bluffs or something in order to call here because I'm just getting such a good price, So it's just a spot where when you're playing a chip EV spot at the beginning of a tournament, you're not like thinking about like, oh, I want to preserve my tournament life and all that stuff. You just have to make these big calls sometimes. Yeah. And sometimes you just have to die.
Yeah, pot odds are my drug.
Yeah, man.
That's my drug of choice right there. Just lay me a fucking price, baby.
Right. And I think as well, like there's a temptation in tournaments to think that, we only want to take the absolute best spots, right? Like we want to take the spots where we can be very confident we're not going to bust or where we're, our tournament life isn't going to be at risk or whatever else. But you have to take the uncomfortable spots. And I think that, a lot of the time they have a lot of EV attached to them. This one was one where if it does work out correctly, then I have 200K in level 3.
In good shape. I think that's very well said. I had a similar spot. It's funny that we're talking about live reads. I had a similar spot come up yesterday where I played a 4-bet pot flop top pair on I think it was like queen 8 rag.
This was not in the WPT.
No, this was in cash.
Yeah, you were not out there firing.
I will be firing max late reg today. But anyway, I flopped top pair on like queen 8-6, rainbow, something along those lines. I c-bet, got called. But the important thing was this hand was against a very tight reg. And she, at least, we haven't played a lot of hours together, but she is at least perceived to gravitate much more towards the top of range. And I have the perception that when people have this sort of image at the table where everybody kind of collectively believes them to be relatively bounded, and what I mean by that is like not having much of a bottom of range.
They just have it.
The truth is like that's only true to a certain degree. They're actually just like a lot more linear in their construction. So sure, they don't have the bad hands, so to speak, when they polarize, but they just, you know, replace that with like the middle of their range.
The ones who bluff with kings on an ace high board.
Yeah, maybe that's a little bit extreme, but that sort of
that's the most extreme version of it, where it's like I don't have an ace and I recognize that I want you to fold, so I'm just going to try to bluff with kings. You know?
Is that what you're describing merging?
It is what I'm describing merging. Okay. I mean, it's just kind of like an antiquated term, but effectively that's really what's happening is because they lack a lot of the nothing, then they start to merge their medium strong hands in with their strong hands so that they have an adequate amount of bets.
The triple range merge.
Right. So the turn was like an offsuit 7 completing no, offsuit
you said
9.
You said
queen
queen
8-6.
Queen 8-6.
Queen 8-6, so offsuit 9, completed jack 10. She checked, I checked back. River was a brick, and she bet full pot. And I know I have a theoretical call here 100% of the time, like just absolute pure call. Nothing to really think of here. And I wasn't even necessarily looking for a reason to fold. I just knew that I was going to put myself in difficult spots versus her moving forward, and I wanted to have a fair baseline. So I guess like the reason I bring this up is because for a long time, I think I was pretty good at being able to specifically identify what a person did that made me read them as weak or strong. But as the game evolves and people are just getting naturally better, I realize like it's more so speaking to the sense that you have on the river, where it's just the whole I guess vibe you're getting from someone, and you're just able to like kind of size them up and just take in a bunch of different bits of data and process them as like weak or strong without actually being able to point to one specific thing and say like, oh, well, you did this or you did that, and that's what enticed me to call. So I knew I was going to play a bunch of pots against her that were going to be difficult like this moving forward, and I just wanted to get a baseline for what her body language looked like when she's betting full pot in a 4-bet pot on the end. And I kind of looked at her and I was just like, she is fucking bluffing, man. Like, I've never been more sure. I would call bottom pair in this spot. Like, just something about the way she's sitting, the way she's like, I don't know. I can't describe any of it. It just was so far off from how she is when she's not in a hand. And I was just like, okay, well, like, I already had a natural call I'm going to call. And she shows king, queen high. And I was like, okay. Oh, sorry.
Wait,
it came
king,
jack
queen?
high. It came jack high, not queen high. I had queen jack. If that's not obvious. So I sucked out. But the point was, so 9-10 was the straight. So it was a jack 8-6 turn 7 board, completing 9-10. And we got there. It's like, obviously she's good. She certainly retains kings as a trap in a 4-bet pot. She certainly has queens, even though I block. She's certainly gonna have like ace jack suited and things of this nature. So like I'm beat here on the end a reasonable amount of the time, even though my hand probably plays pretty close to a pure call, if not a pure call. But having that baseline now, I think is worth so much subconsciously, right? Because I'm going to play a bunch of hands against her, and I'm not necessarily going to sit there and tank and try to eye her up in every single decision that we have and be like, oh yeah, this is consistent with what I saw. But what will ultimately end up happening is we're going to play a big pot somewhere down the line, and I'm going to have a very close spot. And I'm just going to glance at her, and I'm either going to get the exact same sort of feedback that I got in this hand, or I'm going to get something different. And I'm going to say, that looks inconsistent to the last time that I called and was right. You know what I mean? So I think that's where the live tail physical edge type of element comes into play. And I hope that by telling that story, it becomes abundantly clear that like this is a sliver of an edge.
Yeah. And it's
know?
also it's particularly relevant that you're talking about a context where you're playing regularly against the same people.
Correct.
So you're able to get very individualized body language reads and baselines on how this person usually looks and usually behaves.
Right.
When you're sitting with someone for a couple of hours, the only things you have to rely on are what trends you generally tend to see in people of a certain sort of not demographic, but like profile, I guess.
Yep.
In that, you see some things from pros and regs, you see some things from obvious recs, you see some things from players who are there to really gamble it up and things like that. And you just have to make your best guess based on the information that's available in any given spot. And especially if you're less experienced, you're just going to have very little info to work with, and you're going to not really have a very accurate baseline. But when you've been playing as long as you have and you play with the same players regularly, at that point it does become an edge. But like you say, it's nothing compared to just understanding how to play good theoretical poker.
Yeah, I think that's true. All right, well, that was fun. I enjoy getting into the meta every now and again.
Yeah, especially with a 4-bet pot, right? You don't have a lot of these in MTTs.
That's true.
We don't play a lot of them.
When are you firing again?
Probably tomorrow. Today, I kind of felt like I needed a bit of a day off. I wanted to decompress a little bit, talk through that hand, and just kind of put myself at ease about it a little bit. All right,
so I'll see you there at dinner break to max late reg?
Yeah, pretty much.
50 bigs, bro.
50 bigs. Yeah, that's a lot of bigs. That is a lot of bigs. But no, I'm gonna take today. I'm gonna come back and fire tomorrow, and then possibly Friday if needed. So
okay.
we got 3 bullets out there, and I'm really hoping to make a day 2. So we'll see how it goes.
Hopefully everyone on the team. Landon's out there in the trenches firing his second bullet. When are you getting out there, Connie?
Tomorrow, Friday.
You haven't decided yet?
I'll figure it out. I'm not sure what.
Guapo, you in there?
No main event for me, puppy.
No main
Lamanna?
You know they're running milestone satellites, Guapo.
I am aware.
Okay, I just wanted to let you know.
We gotta like pool our funds together and get Guapo in there for the pod.
Honestly,
for the content.
We got to end the show, so I don't want to get into it. But if you had heard how terrified he was to put 15 bigs in with 9s versus an open, you wouldn't want to pull any funds for anything.
Terrified, he says.
All right,
he goes, I got a little light against an old man coffee opening under the gun. We're like, what do you mean? He's like, I jammed 9s for 15 bigs.
Yikes.
And it's like, okay, well, that's value, man.
9s is a good hand, bro.
That's a really good hand.
That's a pair.
What do we think an OMC range looks like?
We don't give a shit, man.
We don't give a fuck.
He has 5s for sure.
OMC raise folds ace jack there.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
All right, that's going to do it for us. I'm going to be out in the field today. Hopefully I bag off of 1, but if not, I'm going to be late regging 3 days in a row.
As if you've ever bagged off 1 bullet in anything.
I have, goddammit. Those are, last year I did, matter of fact.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
And then I got absolutely obliterated
Normally
on day 2.
You're like, you bag chip lead off 6 bullets. That's how it goes for you normally.
Oh, God. I
I don't
want that experience.
I made a nice little run last year. I'm trying to do it again, baby.
Godspeed. Don't forget that you have until the 15th to save $500 on attending the Academy. We do have a Cash Game Academy coming up January 15th to the 17th. We also have dates announced for March and May. So head over to academy.s4y.io and be sure to check that out. We'll be back with you again tomorrow, 11 a.m. Pacific. I'm not sure what we're bringing to the show. We got a lot to cover. WPT. It's going to be 1C coming into tomorrow, so we'll update you on all the major chip counts as well as what's going on.
Nikki's going to be
here, I was going to say, we'll be at the final table in Bahamas then.
Oh, that's true. And yeah, Nikki will be joining us. So be sure to stay tuned for that. We'll see you guys all tomorrow.
Peace.
Peace.